You're listening to the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy, alternative DVD commentaries. Hello, my name is Josh, and sitting with me in the Soulless Minions studios is my brother Justin. Say hello.
Hello.
Today we're going to be looking at the 1987 film Roxanne, starring Steve Martin and Daryl Hannah. If you want to watch along with us, we're going to set up a sync point. That's going to be 21 seconds into the movie, just after the Columbia Pictures logo has faded away. If you don't want to do that, it's cool. You can just listen along as well. But if you're going to watch it with us, get ready to unpause your DVD or Blu-ray when I say unpause. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, unpause. All right, Columbia Pictures presents...
Weren't they proud of it? Columbia Pictures proudly presents. Do you remember when...
Oh, Fred Shepsey. He did...
Fred!
Yeah, he did Mr. Baseball.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
This
is actually a interesting font choice, now that I think about it.
Well, since we just mentioned Fred Shepsey, we'll come back to this, but I know that Fred Shepsey directed Mr. Baseball because for a couple different reasons, the cinematography in this always stood out to me. I always liked it, really liked it. And so I was curious about his other films and if they have this sort of look, I don't know if it's the lenses used or the angles or what, but Mr. Baseball has a very, very similar aesthetic, and I like it.
It does. You're right now that I think about it.
But we can get more into that like as certain shots play out and whatnot. But that's just something that I was aware of and kind of was always aware of. So we're opening up on CB Barnes. Oh, I'm sorry, CD.
Yeah.
Cyrano de Bergerac. Barnes. Yes. So let's start off by pointing out the obvious. This movie is a...
Well, let me go back for a moment.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about Mr. Baseball, which is a much underrated movie.
Just like this one. Really.
Well, I think this is much more remembered.
Maybe so.
I think Mr. Baseball has slipped through the cracks. I'm walking down the steps because it's easier than walking.
I have done this so many times.
Yeah, I know. Like quoting L.A. Story, another great Steve Martin movie. But you were mentioning the photography. What about the photography? Really?
Well, look at this. Look at this shot. It's very wide. You're seeing both characters coming from the side, which is certainly not unusual, but he intentionally chose a lens that would make them appear probably much farther apart than they actually were. Another thing that I noticed throughout this movie is because of where they shot it, out near the mountains and whatnot, they seem to go out of their way to angle the camera in such a way where you see the area that they live in. And that's more of a choice of just, okay, what are we going to see in the frame? Like we want to see our surroundings, but I don't know, man. It's more than that. Maybe it's the lenses they used, certain depth of field, like that. There it is. Of course, they did that on purpose to accentuate the nose.
Well, that's almost a fisheye.
Yeah, just a tad.
Lens.
But look at it right now. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but there's something about it. I don't know what. Mr. Baseball has the same thing. I don't know what it is.
Is there something also in the texture of the film?
A little bit, but you know what? And I may be way wrong on this. I probably am. It has almost like a 70 millimeter look to it. How those just look wider, bigger, even though they're technically the same size as a standard 235 movie, but they have a different look because of the way the lenses pick up that wide frame from the film itself. Maybe this was shot in 70. I highly doubt it, but of course it wasn't. That's ridiculous. But it has that look, for lack of a better explanation. All right, we're missing this. We should talk about this.
Oh, the opening scene?
Yeah.
What about the opening scene?
I enjoy that this...
This is supposed to be akin to like a sword fight, like in the beginning of Cyrano de Bergerac.
Obviously.
Full disclosure, have you read Cyrano?
Not a word.
I have not read it either. I know the lore of it through things like this and Star Trek The Next Generation. That's where I get all my knowledge.
I know, man. You don't have to front it.
And it was played by Cyrano. They did an adaptation in the 90s with Gerard Depardieu.
Yeah, sure. But this is a modern day take on it. And what I like about this opening is it tells us almost everything we need to know about
Great setup.
CD. It's a great setup.
Yeah, he can defend himself, but he's also very witty.
He's witty. He does not take it seriously. I mean, look at he's toying with these guys.
Service.
And in a few minutes, he goes to see Dixie, and there's blood on it, and he plays it off. You know, it's like he wasn't even going to bring it up.
No.
You know, this is not being jumped, but being tormented and teased is not a new thing in his life.
It's a regular occurrence.
Yeah,
for him.
Probably less so in this town, but more so growing up. You know, that sort of thing was probably a thing. And here's this romantic comedy that starts off with an action scene, and I liked it. It was very efficient. It's fun. It keeps you interested, and you want to know more about CD. Based on,
I'd like to bring up the town for a second, because if I remember correctly, you can look this up as we're talking about it, but the town of Nelson is a real town. And
I think I saw that. Keep going.
Yeah, and it's in British. I think it's in British Columbia. It's in Canada, or on the border of Canada. And when they were scouting film locations, they fell in love with this town, and decided to shoot the movie there, and
British Columbia,
and retain the title of the town because they just loved it so much. I don't think they were trying to pass it off as an American city. They never mention where they are exactly. They don't.
Now that I think about it, not that I can think of anyway. Mm-hmm. You're right.
But
who cares?
It doesn't really matter. But the town is a character. Almost.
It feels like a Northern America.
Definitely. You know? But it gives the film a lot of character.
100%. That same thing with Mr. Baseball. It's a for lack of a better word, it's an aesthetic to the movie, and I'll be damned if I can explain it.
Mm-hmm. There's something quaint about it, but the scenery of it is breathtaking.
Oh, it is. And hence, probably same thing with Mr. Baseball. Why certain lenses were chosen, because they bring out the environment, which is very much part of the movie. You know, if you shot this in standard somewhere L.A., you wouldn't need to bother with taking in the atmosphere because it's just L.A., you know, or something. But this is clearly a different environment, and they want to capture that.
What do you think of the use of him being a fire
police chief?
Police chief.
I never really gave it a whole lot of thought, but it's an interesting choice. It's different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, why that instead of something like maybe he was the police chief instead of like a fire chief?
I think probably because despite the fact that we just had an opening scene where he was using violence, a police, you know, if you think fireman versus policeman, police live in a more violent world, even in a small town, and they're different. I think you can have bumbling firemen and laugh it off rather than bumbling policemen, because that's like dangerous.
Well,
and you don't want to think about that.
Bumbling policemen could work in a small town like this.
Sure,
it worked in the Ref. Do you remember the Ref?
But you know what? I don't think it needed it. I don't think they needed to be all clowns. Like,
well, they weren't all clowns. There was a few boobs. That was about it.
I know. I'm just saying. I think it was an interesting choice. It was different, because I think generally you would go to police chief. I mean, he looks like one, for crying out loud. It doesn't. But yeah. I don't know. I think it, like during their training sequences, for example, it makes it more fun. You know, when Chris shows up, he's a hotshot firefighter. If he was a hotshot cop, I don't know. I don't think you could enjoy his dunderheadedness as much. Mm. You could believe he could be a good fireman and still kind of a dunce, but not a cop. Mm-hmm. Just a thought.
Yeah, and I suppose there also with being a cop, there is something virtuous.
Sure.
With being a fireman, where it's a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's not as life-threatening. Well, it still is, but not on the same level.
You're not carrying a gun.
No.
Like I never want to think about it. Did CD ever discharge his weapon? You know, it's too much.
Well, right now this is a pretty good scene where he brings a MasterCard inside of a lockbox. Every job requires the perfect tool.
This lock doesn't accept MasterCards.
It's a great sequence, but we got Daryl Hannah on screen.
Yeah.
Let's talk about her for a second. What do you think about her as
Roxanne?
As Roxanne.
I think she was ultimately a good choice. She has a quality to her, obviously. This was, in her prime.
A few years after Splash.
Yeah, and gorgeous. She's, I think, able to pull off intellectual well enough, and yet she's accessible. She's cute. She's beautiful, but she's cute at the same time. So like we all want to fall in love with her, rather than her looking like an absolute runway model. I mean, she is. She totally looks like one, but she doesn't look like one at the same time. Well,
they dress her up to make her look intellectual.
Well, sure, but
in a way,
some actors could say that same dialogue and it wouldn't come off. Mm-hmm. She is able to pull it off. What about you have to find someone, and I think they did, who at the end you believe is going to fall in love with CD, and I do believe it.
Yeah, I've never doubted it.
It's something in their chemistry. It's something in her. It's something.
Yeah, there is something that's an interesting observation, because there's other movies, other romances where it works only in the context of the movie, right. And then you think, well, that girl like that would never go for a guy like that. But in this case, it does.
Yeah, I never questioned.
It does work. It does. You don't doubt it. What do you think about the decision to name it Roxanne instead of Cyrano or Charlie? CD. They didn't call it CD. They called it Roxanne.
Well, I hate to say this because it makes me sound stupid, but is the original source material called Cyrano de Bergerac?
It's called Cyrano.
Is it?
Fairly certain.
Okay, I don't know.
Well, we can.
Well, if that's the case,
we can verify that, but I'm pretty sure it's just called Cyrano de Bergerac.
Okay. I don't know. I think in this case, at least the way this movie does it, it's more of an ensemble, and Roxanne is the focus of the movie, what they are focusing on. Yes, it's obviously the same plot in any telling of Cyrano de Bergerac, but I get the sense that Cyrano is the lead. And of course, CD is the lead in this, but I think Roxanne is just as important. I feel like Chris is just as important. So to make him the title lead takes away from everyone else, but to make Roxanne the title lead says this is what the movie's about. The movie's about Roxanne. It's about two guys pursuing Roxanne.
Well, that's what Cyrano was.
No, I know, but I think it's told from Chris's point of view, from CD's point of view, even from Roxanne, where I would be willing to wager that other incarnations are more focused on Cyrano's perspective. So this opens it up a little bit, I would guess.
Fair enough. And it's also a way to simply just differentiate it
exactly.
From the source material.
Yeah. You know what a quark is?
Well, I used to. I just forgot right now.
We don't know everything, do we?
What about the ensemble? You mentioned that. We've got Rick Rossovich,
Yep.
who is fantastic in this movie as Chris.
He's amazing in this
movie. I mean, a lot of people will remember him from Top Gun.
Sure.
But I much more enjoy him in this. I think he really gets to show off a better performance.
Oh,
more
totally.
nuance, some comedy.
Of course. I mean, his character in Top Gun was not meant to be deep. Neither is Chris, but Chris does have layers.
He does, but
he feels like a real guy.
I think Rick Rossovich is able to give Chris just the right amount of charm, but naivete, but in a way that makes him a sympathetic character, because somebody else playing that, because he's playing a stereotypical good-looking dude,
and yet he's not.
But yet, he's not secure at all. He's insecure.
Only when it comes to women.
When it comes to women.
In everything else, he's good.
Right.
Yeah.
So he says. Yeah.
Well, you see it. As a firefighter, he's confident.
That's true.
With his friends, he's confident. When they're out having a good time, he's confident. It's just when you put him in front of a woman, he throws up. And he can't take it.
So I think the choice of him, I think he was able to give it a lot of legitimacy.
Yeah.
When with another actor, probably not. Because I think he needed to be a little clumsy. I think he not perfect.
No, he couldn't be perfect because he has to, in some way, be equal to CD. Because if Chris is perfect, you're never going to believe that she would choose CD. You know?
Well, is it almost? Well, it's. I was about to say brains and bronze, but it's not
No,
really like that
it's more
because
than that.
Cyrano, well, Charlie CD is very capable, as we've seen.
Yeah,
of
he could probably take Chris if he
defending
wanted to.
himself.
Yeah,
That's not a problem.
It's not about that.
I don't know if Cyrano was exactly the same way, or if the character that Chris is based off of, probably Christian, I'm guessing in the Cyrano story. I don't know if he was of the same
Caliber.
Yeah, if
I don't know.
The layers were the same in that.
See, like, look at this. Look at the framing of this shot. They set that intentionally to give you the street on the right-hand side, to give these guys time to move over. This is very slick photography. I like this.
It's very wide breadth.
It is, man. I'm telling you, it's the lenses. It's the film also. It's a certain texture of the film, but I wish I knew what lenses, because it gives it a depth of field that I've always been drawn to.
Works every time, Maestro. I'm calling you Maestro because that's what
So we get Chris very quickly.
Yeah.
He
He shrugs it off.
He shrugs it off in a way that, but he doesn't look nervous. He just kind of shrugs it off because he doesn't know what to do.
I do feel like he's nervous, but he just plays it off with a smile. He has no intention of going any further than that smile, and he's content to walk away.
Right.
And that's very much what he wants to do.
Well, there's a middleman involved.
Yeah.
I want action with style, sort of a GQ, firefighter. Fred.
Shepsy?
No.
Fred Willard?
Fred Willard, who just passed away.
I love these trucks. These are old school. Look at that truck on the right. That's an old school fire truck.
Very
It's classic.
fire engine red.
But it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
They really do a good job of nailing, this fireman crew. Hell, everyone, all the supporting actors. They were all perfect.
This bar kind of has the atmosphere of the double deuce from Roadhouse, don't you think?
You know what it is? You know why? You know what it is? It's the smoke.
Yeah.
Look at that smoke in the background.
Yeah,
that
it's misty.
haze.
Yeah.
You're
You're right.
Gosh, whoever did this, I'm going to look it up. Whoever did the cinematography, I am just a fan. I like how they did it. You keep talking while I look.
Maybe it was the same cinematographer.
It might have been. I am going to check.
Well, right now we're in the bar where I don't know if we're ever given the bar's name, but we're in the first scene of it, but we come back to it, and we're getting a few other characters. Shelley Duvall and Sandy comes in. Shelley Duvall, who I think mostly I know from, I hate to say The Shining, but I think that's
Well, I mean, that's nothing to be shy
nothing
about.
nothing to be ashamed of. But hopefully she was treated better on the set of this. From what I've heard, she was kind of tortured by Stanley Kubrick during the
She was.
the making of that.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to go down the list. The first thing I know that he did was Iceman from 1984.
Are we looking at the DP of this movie or the DP of
This movie.
Okay.
Iceman, Roxanne. He did The Punisher, the one with
Dolph Lundgren?
He did Mr. Baseball. Sure enough. Not at all surprised. He also did The Russia House. Not that I've seen it. IQ.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'd have to go back to that one.
Okay.
I mean, I know the movie, but I can't remember the photography. Huh. He did It Runs in the Family.
Or AKA
A Summer
Summer
Story.
Story or My Summer Story.
Yes.
But it'll always be It Runs in the Family to me.
I know. The Chamber. Evan Almighty. Now we're getting into we're deep into the 2000s here. Those are the standouts. So, yeah. I'm glad I was right. Look at that.
Good job. You gonna pat yourself on the back about something else?
Kiss my ass. Now, of course, this guy here is intentionally sleazy, and they have to do that to contrast Chris, who's not interested at all.
Well, he is.
This
but
is the guy
in a way.
you expect Chris to be, but he's not.
Yeah, but there's something. He's kind of a doofus, so it gives him
This guy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It gives him a little bit of charm. because
Yeah.
he's not as
It allows
they-
you not
as-
to hate him.
Well, as thrown out creepy as
Yeah,
people
yeah,
would
he's
say,
not-
but because he's kind of a dorky.
He's kind of harmless.
he's harmless. He just likes to talk like a big game, but he doesn't. Oh, he got the long stare there with Chris and Roxanne.
And he's out.
Hey, he's gone.
It's a big bar, man. This is like
It's a huge bar.
This has to be the bar in town. This is the only one because this is gigantic.
You went up there before.
Now, I'm glad they put this scene in here because it gives us a way to sit down and if you're not watching along with us, we're at the scene where Charlie's going to go up to the roof of the house and talk to the kid that was bullied at school, doesn't want to come down. But it gives us a moment to sit down and breathe in Charlie's character to really get a feeling for his
I kept calling
his
him CD
alienation.
Barnes.
Bales.
It's Bales. My
Bales,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bales, that's how he says it, yeah. But to sit down and feel what he feels like that of being
Ridiculed.
yeah, just
Picked on.
thrown to the wolves, like not accepted.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't really advance the plot. It's just for character.
Absolutely.
Like we never see any of this again. It's
No.
just gets inside his mind a little bit to what it feels like to not be, as you said, accepted.
Of course.
But she said I had to clean up my plate first.
Now see?
I love this background, this mountainous background. It's really nice.
Well, of course, it's gorgeous, and again, it's that depth of field.
I didn't.
They make no attempt to have that mountain in focus. It keeps them sharp.
What he said about the kid on the roof, he said, "Oh, you're smart and you're funny. That'll help."
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, I didn't make it up. It's true." But that kind of gives you an insight into what Charlie did when he was growing up. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
learned to be
He
funny
sarcastic
and smart
and funny. Yeah.
Like he would outwit his opponents.
Yeah, and he
That's yeah, that's something he just had to adapt to. Now this guy, he was in Scrooged. That's
Oh, he's been
primarily
in a ton of
a
things.
ton of stuff, but that's primarily what I know him as.
His name is Michael Pollard.
Right.
Yeah, he was in Scrooged and Bonnie and Clyde. He's a
Oh,
character
Bonnie and
actor.
Clyde. Right.
Total character actor. And just funny on sight.
Have you met the chief?
No.
Well, he's kind of funny looking. So I wouldn't mention it.
I wouldn't do
I
that.
enjoy that they let a good chunk of the movie go by before Chris and CD meet.
Build up the
The tension.
The tension
And
of
it
them having to
allows
meet.
their individual stories to progress to a point where now they've come to a head.
Yeah. Well, it kind of lulls us into a false sense of like, well, they've warned Chris multiple times. Now he won't he won't have a reaction to when he sees him, but
Right.
of course he does. Well, we'll talk about that moment when we get there. What do you think this? What do you think the purpose of this was? She's an astronomer.
I don't know.
Charlie?
I really don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you.
All right.
Yeah, she could have been anything scientific. Why astronomy?
I think I just
Well,
got a comet.
okay. I would say not a doctor, not a biologist, not a something like that, because people can't relate to it.
And I discovered
Nothing into genetics or anything like that. Same reason. Astronomy, she's not maybe she is a doctor actually. I don't know. She might be. But this field could give her character that sense of
or actually the forerunner of a big comet, which is due back this summer.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I see. So you're
like she's a dreamer. She questions things. She wants to know what's out there. She
Not really.
she's the kind of girl that would like science fiction, not that we know that about her, but astronomy is something she can carry that telescope up and she can have friends over and they can look and they can get inspired by what's inspiring her. It's something she can share.
Kowalski.
Okay, so it's a little bit more accessible.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, I suppose. Where it's understandable enough.
Yeah,
Right.
enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I buy that. They give her the kind of like librarian glasses.
And
has, like,
she
the
can explain it. She can
string
say,
around her
"Hey,
neck.
I'm here to do this thing. I'm researching, and I can do it here."
Yeah, she found. Yeah, the kind of her thread is like she found a comet.
Right.
She's waiting for the comet to come back.
Yeah. But it's something. It's something she's involved in that we can understand just enough to enjoy. You know.
What do you think about
Look at him. He
this?
looks thin. It's the lenses. See how everything off to the sides gets a little out of focus? Watch it in a wider shot. You'll notice that.
Okay.
That's because of the lens they use.
Okay. Well, okay. About this moment when the three main female characters are kind of drooling over Rick Rossovich. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think about that in terms of how men are usually cited as being superficial?
It's usually the other way around.
It's usually the other way around, where they're like, "Oh my God, he should be bronzed."
That's a good observation. See, look at that. See, everything's bent.
Oh
See
yeah,
that?
definitely. Yeah.
That's the lens.
Get a hold of yourself. That's my favorite line.
That's a very good observation. I hadn't really thought about it, but you're 100% right. Again, I'm guessing, but I would bet that in other incarnations of this story, it's the Chris or Christoph or whatever the hell his name may be, Christian
probably.
character, and maybe a couple buddies looking at Roxanne all by herself, whereas this flips it.
Well, they do the same thing to Roxanne though. They
The guys do notice Roxanne,
objectify her.
but it's more so about the girls objectifying Chris, you
Right.
know? And I do enjoy that. I mean, it's girls do that too, you know. He's the new meat in town. Of course, they're gonna look.
Yeah, but women usually, they're not
do
cited
think-
as often as being kind of as overt
No, I
about
agree.
it, but they clearly are.
I do think the hostess, the bartender girl,
Sandy.
she's gorgeous.
Sandy's very pretty.
Yeah, very pretty.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Sandy.
This guy.
I don't get the all things dead store. Like, is it just like he's a doofus, so he has to have a doofus store?
I guess. Why have him have a store at all? It's just something,
It's like just a shading.
just a thing. Yeah.
yeah, for flavor.
Yeah.
But talking about Sandy, because if you've more than likely you've seen this movie before. That's why you're listening to it. But Sandy and Chris end up together. Would you say that they end up together because they're on an intellectual level that's more
They're
balanced?
closer than he and Roxanne are. But
so what do you think the movie's saying about that? Where
I don't think it's about that. That just happens to be the case. I think the reality is that when Chris encounters Sandy, his guard is down. Guard's not the right word. His fear guard is down. You know, when he sees Roxanne from across the bar, it's like, oh shit, this is a girl. She's clearly interested in me, and I'm not with anyone, so I'm expected to pursue her, so on and so forth. But when he runs into Sandy, he's involved.
I was there. I saw it happen. He took the idea.
He's involved with Roxanne. So when he starts talking to Sandy, there's no pressure as far as he's concerned. And so he's able to relax and be himself. And
There's a little something you should.
well, I get
that
that.
allows them to bond. And I don't think Chris is used to that, honestly.
Don't stare.
Look, I'm not gonna stare. Come on.
But is chemistry? Are they equating chemistry to intellectual level? That's almost what it kind of feels like they're doing.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think it just happens to be that they are a little more similar in that sense. But I don't think
Because they make Sandy out to be kind of dumb. Like, that's the first thing that is said about her character from Shelley Duvall. She mockingly says, Sandy's a very deep person, to insinuate that she's shallow.
Well,
And is Chris supposed to be
that
shallow,
doesn't
too?
mean she's shallow. Chris isn't shallow.
Well, when it comes to in compared to CD, he's like, when he says, she says, use your own words, and he says, you have a great body. Can I fluff your pillows?
no.
He doesn't know what to say.
That's not shallowness. That's lack of intellectuality. There's a difference.
Well, some people might disagree with that. Because he doesn't know how to articulate how he feels.
There's plenty of people that don't know how to articulate, but are still emotionally deep people. They just don't know how to express it.
Well, some would say that you're shallow because you're basing your attraction off of physicality as opposed to...
Well, of course, at first, that's what he's basing it on with Roxanne, because he doesn't know her. Now, if you extrapolate forward, there's no way he and Roxanne are going to make it. You know, they have nothing to talk about. But Sandy and Chris, they do. They click. They have similar experiences. Don't you think?
I don't know about experiences. They don't go into that. They develop a rapport very quickly.
Yes. All right, we can't not talk about this scene.
This is one of the best scenes in the movie.
This is the scene in the movie.
You heard me.
Yeah, only a dunderhead would set himself up for something like this, and clearly this guy is.
Yeah, drunk dunderhead.
Got me on that one, didn't you?
So, CD gets called out in front of this giant.
He was almost going to let it go.
Yeah, he was going to let it
But
go.
the guy wouldn't drop it.
Yeah. He gets called out in front of the town, in front of his friends, for his nose. And this guy is clearly aggressive and trying to cause a problem. And so CD challenges him to come up with 20 insults.
Yeah, of course, CD knows them all.
He knows them all, you know. Oh, that is to say, if that guy he scores a 20 on the dartboard, then CD has to come up with 20 better insults than this guy did, which was only big nose.
Right. And if you watch this movie edited like on, TNT or something like that, they'll cut out some of the dirty ones, which is unfortunate.
Like, keep that guy away from
my cocaine, or, a man that can satisfy two women at once. Yeah. I probably never would have noticed the smoke had you not pointed it out. Like, it gives it like a meatiness almost.
Gives it atmosphere.
Yeah, I guess. Put it in another way.
Well, here we are.
Now, of course, this has a couple things going on. It's showing...
What's up with the horses hanging down? I don't get it. That's so weird.
I don't know.
Go ahead, sorry.
This is showing, again, CD's wit.
Is that the name of the 279 Club? Is that the name of the place?
Maybe.
All right.
Showing his wittiness. He's brave.
Right.
We know at the end of it, again, he can physically protect himself while usually doing humor at the same time. And he's, even though she's not aware of it, he's winning over Roxanne right now. He didn't cower. He didn't run. If he had just turned the other cheek, she would have respected him probably, but not been wowed by him. She's being wowed by him right now. Everyone is.
Well, he's I don't know if he's beginning the process of winning her over, but I guess you could make that argument, but he's becoming worthwhile, I guess you could say. In her eyes, like, oh, well, this guy's really sharp.
Right.
It gives him an edge that he didn't quite have yet.
But
definitely
she didn't see him like
definitely
that
getting into her house, that made him stand apart as someone who was clever.
Right.
Now he's witty and physically capable too.
I love that he had a bad one. Everyone's like, what the hell does that mean?
Oh, it's like, I hate to see the grindstone. Well, think about it.
That's kind of necessary to break up all the good ones.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true. What's your favorite joke out of this? There's 20 of them. So what's your favorite one? I have one.
I don't know. I like to keep that guy away from my cocaine.
That is pretty good. That was probably one of my favorites when I was younger, but now it's, say, did that thing there influence the tides? I didn't get it when I was younger, but now I get it. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Close your nose.
We got one of the Wayans brothers in here.
Yeah.
That's something we haven't pointed out yet.
It's Damon
Wayans, who went on to play Blank Man.
Yes, he did. A misunderstood classic, if ever there was one.
I wouldn't go that far. Misunderstood?
That was a joke. Man.
Okay.
One more. Oh.
Dirty. Your name wouldn't be Dick.
Well, you and I we've had interesting conversations about this movie in the past, and one of the things I've brought up is whether or not, like, is Chris, like, a good person, or is there room for him to be,
Has he fallen yet?
an opportunist almost?
Like, is he a douchebag?
Because, when you look at some of the things he does, it's questionable. He is taking advantage of, to get into Roxanne's pants, basically. He's lying. And he's never really held accountable for it. At the end of the movie, he runs off with Sandy. So,
Yeah.
is he...
Okay.
What would you say about that?
I don't think Chris is intentionally a bad person. I do think he does things that are not good.
It's not premeditated.
No, he's not premeditated.
But still, he is...
Okay, in his defense, not that this is defendable, because what he does do to get Roxanne in bed is morally reprehensible. But the thing is, Roxanne wants to, right? She just wanted a reason. She wanted to from the moment she laid eyes on him.
But does the fact that she wanted to justify what he does?
No, it doesn't. But
Of course not.
I'm just saying he's not like some despicable human being who wore like an Excalibur put on a face of someone else that wasn't really him. I mean, she wanted him. She didn't care about his depth. She wanted him to write to her, yes, but that was just shit that was talking about her. As far as I know, she doesn't know anything about Chris. Her interest in him was just as superficial as his interest in her. But Chris was interested. That doesn't mean he didn't care about who she was inside, but his eyes drew him first. And
for her too.
And what?
Her eyes as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. She admits to that.
And to be fair, it's not even Chris's idea to get her up in bed like that. That was CD. He went too far. CD's the one that put that offer out there. And Chris is like, hell yeah, I'll go.
No. It was Chris that started that train.
No, he invited him to talk to her, but it was CD that put out the thing of just say one word, Roxanne.
No. Chris started that because he wanted to sleep with her in that
Of course
moment.
he wants to sleep with
so he
her.
got the ball rolling on that. It wasn't CD.
But he didn't tell CD, hey, make it so I can bed her tonight.
No,
he
didn't.
that.
He said, I want to make love to you. That's what he said.
Okay,
he got that started. And CD had a cover for it.
All right. But he's just talking out. He's just shooting from the hip, Bottom line, yes. In allowing CD to do that, yes, that's unfair. It's morally questionable, but it's just someone trying to find the words to express what he wants way more eloquently. And like I said, Roxanne wants to do it. She just wants a reason so she doesn't feel like a slut, but she totally wants to do it. So and then leaving her at the end, also not cool.
No,
he didn't. In his defense on this, he didn't cheat on Roxanne, but he said, "Hey, I'm going to leave her a letter." So he was breaking ties with her. He just did it very cowardly.
well, he kind of did cheat on her. He was seeing her and he slept with Sandy.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
What are you talking about?
No,
They leave that day or like the next.
No, but
morning.
he slept with Sandy.
Whoa! What?
It's implied.
Hold on. I don't remember
okay.
this. Okay. Let's
Well,
not argue.
it can be okay. It's assumed that he and Sandy got together.
Let's wait until the end.
They had
because
they had at
honestly,
least
my
one
memory-
night together and they slept together.
My memory is not that happened, but I could be wrong.
Well, no, they never show anything like that.
Well, no, I
happening,
know
but
that.
it's assumed that they got together.
But I'm talking about the implication. I have to see it because I don't remember the implication.
Well, we're laughing at the moment where Chris finally meets CD, and it's Rick Rossovich hits just the right tone.
Oh yeah,
But I think it really does show his character in a very neat, quick way, and that everyone else is so hyper aware of his nose that they like they said they try not to look at it. Then you see yourself staring, and you take a good look, But the way that Chris looks at it is so innocent and that he just can't stop looking, and it's
he's not doing it
huge.
to
He's
be
like,
mean.
it's gigantic. He doesn't deny that it's big, which is what everyone else does. He just says it's huge, and then he's able to, once that's cracked, they become friends. It's like it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah.
He never sees his big nose after that. It's
Right.
like, oh, once you address it, you make a thing out of it. It's not a thing. So
he
he's
takes
able
the
to
elephant out of
he's,
the room.
Yeah, he's the only person that's able to get past it, and they're able
Agreed.
to connect. But we were talking about him and Sandy, right?
Yeah, we'll just have to wait until the end, honestly. But like we said, ultimately, when it comes to Chris, he's not. He does do two things that are questionable, but he doesn't do them maliciously. And if made to think about them, I have no doubt he feels guilty about them.
He feels a little bit of guilt when he writes that letter. In a way, that's him apologizing.
He
for
wishes
doing that.
he could talk to Roxanne. He just knows he can't. I'm again not defending it, just saying that he's not maliciously a douche. He just does a couple douchey things, But he's forgivable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about, kind of like what we're saying with Roxanne, that doesn't exactly paint Roxanne in the best light.
No,
either.
no, or any other of the other women.
Well, they're
Really.
just looking at him, but Roxanne actually does it. And she doesn't know Chris from Adam. And yes, she gets swayed by his words, but had CD showed up at that window that night, he wouldn't have gotten with Roxanne. It's because Chris looks the way he does. Granted, human nature, fine. But she's acting shallow like he is. So, I'd say they're, in a sense, equally guilty. Clearly, they don't talk, when they're together, which is only the one time.
Do they only have that one night together?
That one night, and then she goes off on her thing, and then they write. Or she writes, or he writes,
Okay.
And then he
Okay.
comes back, but nothing happens,
Okay.
Someone who I think likes me too. Know what I mean?
Well, what do you think it says about male-female attraction? And that's
I can see him trying, but he won't.
she is immediately taken by Chris because of he's an Adonis type character, right? Okay, but
That's why
Charlie
Yeah.
isn't really given the light of day.
No. She likes him. Clearly.
She likes him, but she's not attracted to him in that way.
No.
And never really, he's able to win her over, right, through words, right, through that kind of creative expression. But in her mind the whole time is that image that it's coming from Chris, which it's not.
Right.
And then when the movie comes to a head, the story comes to a head, she finds out that it was really Charlie. It's just a romantic, fictitious notion that's, we can still have the same kind of feeling for someone without that physicality being present.
I've only seen him a few times. We've never even spoken. We just
Certainly not when you things like catfish, for instance.
right.
Like the
Well,
modern day catfish. Where
yeah.
people pretend to be someone they're not. They're not able to transition those feelings.
Well,
unfold.
I don't know if this is really I guess ultimately at the end of the day that's exactly what this whole story is. It's an examination of physical attractiveness
CD,
versus, what's inside. And
I know I'm forward. You were really great the other night. The first time
yes, she meets CD and she doesn't see him physically that way. Of course she likes him, they become friends and all of that. And on the flip side of that, she meets Chris and doesn't know him at all, but is physically drawn to him, as anyone would be. He's a good-looking guy. And I don't think she could be faulted for that. And had Chris not shown up, for all we know, she and CD may have gotten in a relationship. That he may have started to make a move or something, and they may have slowly fallen into something. But this incident forced him to come forward with her in a way that he probably never would have or might not ever have. But as it happens, she comes into town and meets CD and Chris from, for her pretty much around the same time. So it's not, I don't think, crazy for her to be attracted to Chris. That's obvious. And CD is not making a push for it himself. So, I mean, is she really to blame in that sense? She gets along with a lot of people, just like she does with CD. She just doesn't see that nose and go, oh, which is good.
I just realized this is Babu, right?
Yeah. Ice cream.
Well, that's Bubble Boy. Babu from Seinfeld, right?
Oh.
Babu!
Oh, well, this is the Bubble Boy guy, too.
But it's also Babu.
Oh, right. I was confusing the names. Right.
He said the wheels were in motion, but there was no motion.
It's also Dr. Bashir's dad.
Very good, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I've heard that that's actually his real nose.
That one?
The last one, I think.
Yeah, I want to say I've heard that also.
So
Yeah.
I saw her in that bar and she's so pretty.
She's interesting too.
Interesting. Yeah. Did you see her legs?
Well, what are we really telling ourselves when it comes to because I only have the male perspective being a man, but are we saying that are we trying to convince ourselves that it's possible to woo a woman that way, using
So what do I do? What do I do?
using just words?
How do I meet her? I don't know.
Well,
How about if you
Are we trying to tell ourselves that that's possible?
It
Because
is
he's
possible.
well in the context of this story, it is. He's able to win her heart just by being himself. Where does that really come to pass that often in real life?
I would not say that's the norm, but certainly it's possible. It does
Not that I
happen.
don't like women. I like women, okay? But I just get a little
It
nervous.
seems
Not
like
that I don't like women, okay?
I like women, okay. They just get me a little nervous. That's all. He's got his masculinity.
Just
to
just
protect.
making clear we know he doesn't have a case of the not gays.
Yeah.
That's how I would have talked to her. Bad.
I see. So in other words, every time you meet a woman with a little
But I mean, yeah, this does happen, and like we were pointing out at the beginning, we believe that Roxanne falls for him, and we don't feel like it's bullshit. Like she would never choose CD over Chris. I believe it. It's certainly not a common thing. I don't think a girl that looks like that will usually end up with a Chris. But
it's Latin. It means seize
this is just one of those instances where it
there may
happened.
not be a tomorrow. So
Let's change track for a moment. I want to talk about Steve Martin just in general.
Okay.
Like, where would you say, in his career, Roxanne kind of stands? If you took his whole career, into mind.
For me, this is a highlight.
Okay. Would you, I would say obviously as well, but it's always been a battle between L.A. Story and Roxanne. Like, which one do I prefer? But I guess you could say, like, it depends on which kind of mood I'm in.
Yeah, they're both hilarious, but different.
Yeah, I mean,
They both ride absurdity in a little way. L.A. Story more so,
well,
obviously.
yeah, it's surreal.
Surreal L.A. Story
Yeah.
goes into, but they're both goofy, yet they've got heart.
Quirky.
Quirky, sure.
Do what you said. I'm gonna write her a letter. I got away with words.
Do you think he was at his, do you think he primed out, in the late 80s? Steve Martin. Because this was before L.A. Story. L.A. Story was early 90s, now that I think about it. So
I would say around that time frame,
Like
late
Father
80s,
of the
early
Bride?
90s, I enjoyed his
Okay.
stuff at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
I've never been a huge fan of his early stuff, like The Jerk.
or like Wild and Crazy Guy.
Yeah, not
Wild and Crazy Guy.
not my thing. I enjoy this Steve Martin.
Yeah, his you can still find his if you look online, I'm sure you can still find some of his early stand-up routines, and they're funny, but I think you really need to be a fan of that style of Steve Martin to really know what he's like, to appreciate his sense of humor, because I don't think it's as timeless as other people's comedic stylings. It just doesn't age as well. And there was a There was a episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee where Seinfeld brought up his stand-up routines, and it was Martin who actually said, like, I don't really think it's stood the test of time. It's like you said it has. I think it's kind of just mired in that decade, which is unfortunate, but it can be true in some cases. But I thought it was very refreshing to hear someone say, yeah, it was what it was at that time. I don't think it would.
You mean Martin himself said that?
Yeah, he's like, I said, I don't think it would work nowadays. It worked then, but not now.
I talked to Chris.
It was a good episode, but it's also it's one of those cases where you have a person who's very funny on screen, but when you put him in a natural setting where he's just being himself, he's not cracking jokes.
Steve Martin?
Yeah.
No, he's not that
He's
kind of guy.
He's not like that at all. He's very reserved.
Yeah.
He's not putting out quippy remarks like Jerry Seinfeld does, who's himself in everything.
Yeah.
He's just very relaxed, very reserved, and doesn't play himself off as a comedian at all.
Right.
Which is fine. He doesn't have to be. But a lot of funny guys are like that in real life.
I agree.
For my sister.
Not saying that every one of them harbors kind of dark sentiment, but Robin Williams is a classic example where he was always on. Always on, but he was harboring a lot of dark thoughts too. I don't know what that's all about. Like, why do so many funny people have these kind of very divergent personalities?
I don't think they all do, but I would venture a guess that those that have that tendency are people that probably had
Oh, hi, Chris.
a youth
I'm not doing anything.
not unlike the character of CD, where they were picked on. They were maybe the short, chubby one, something that made them turn to humor as a defense, and they were able to be successful. They were able to be funny at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's quite an operation you have here.
Why, thank you.
What do you think of CD's poetry? What do you think of his writing?
I mean, it's good, obviously.
You think so?
Well, I mean, what little bit of it we get.
I mean, yeah, because we do get mostly what we hear is from. What do you think of Chris's writing? Check this box.
I think it's epic.
It's very junior high levels.
Well, hell yeah. Well, you see him at the beginning of the scene trying to write, and he
can't do
he's
it.
down to the nub. He looks like he's writing a final.
He said like, how long were you working on this? All day since noon, Chris. That's a very long time. But he's actually almost offended when he says, like, we can't give her this, and he says, but I worked hard on that.
He's like, no.
Okay.
The thing is,
Okay. But you can't
CD at this point, he does. How did you feel when you first saw her? Horny. Yeah. Okay. But you can't say that.
I felt moved, alive.
See, now
on fire.
what CD's doing right now is, I think, both good and not great. He's
mentoring. That's
no. That's fine.
That's good.
That's fine. He's helping him choose better words for what he's trying to express, and then he just takes over. And he's explaining to Chris, look, you can't say these things to her. Roxanne needs to hear things in a certain way. She's this sort of person, right? Mm-hmm. She's not going to respond to, I was being a dickhead or whatever.
Yeah.
So he first starts with the coaching, trying to find better words, but then he takes over completely. But
my only nourishment.
I get the sense, at least when he does the letters, that he's just sort of waxing philosophical. He's not really saying it. They're good words and they're well said, but they don't mean anything. Obviously, when he's writing these letters to Roxanne, he's not telling anything personal, because if he did, he'd be talking about Chris, which is not true. So he has to be just bullshitting. You're beautiful as the sun is this, and it's like, okay, that's fluff. It's bull.
Well, are you talking about this stuff right here?
This stuff.
He calls it poetic baloney.
It is poetic baloney.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
I felt like
mean
a child in the sun, feeling only your radiance.
Exactly. It doesn't mean
Radiance. I like that. I'm going to underline that.
Right. But he does, when he's with Roxanne, just get to know her as a person, and she gets to know him. That's the real meat of it. This stuff doesn't mean anything, you know. And again, it just sadly goes to show that Roxanne is. She's not stupid. Roxanne knows that this stuff doesn't mean anything either, but she's swayed by it. Why? Because she wants to be.
Well, that's not what he sends her. He doesn't send her poetic baloney that he just came up with. He doesn't send her that.
What, right now? He just got a letter.
Well, no. But like that poetic baloney he just cited, that's not what he sends her in the first letter.
What do you... I'm not...
He just said in the scene, he said, well, no, this is just poetic baloney. See, for Roxanne, it has to be this and that.
But it is still poetic baloney.
Well, no, not what he sends her.
You mean when she's gone?
For the first letter is not poetic baloney.
The first letter is probably a little more, but that he's trying to be Chris. Whereas I bet in the other ones it's more the poetic baloney. He probably doesn't think of it that way, but it is.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
It can't be anything else. What
Well-
else would he say to her?
Well, I can't. Roxanne's gonna quote something he gives her.
Okay,
In the first
we'll
letter,
wait for
and that we'll get to that scene. But do you remember what we do here from the in the end? You know, where he's reading the final letter to Roxanne, and he says, you know, all day long I think, where is she? What is she doing now?
Yeah,
And
but it's all...
then he says like 2:37 in the afternoon. You know, it's like, it's just like musings from the day.
That's all it is.
But it's not that poetic baloney.
Okay, fine,
nonsense.
that one.
Okay.
But fine, even if it's all that stuff, what is she doing today? But it can't be all that. There's got to be that poetic bullshit in there. But whether it's the poetic bullshit or what is she doing today and all that, it's still... She thinks it's Chris. So it doesn't have the same sort of weight as if it was coming from CD himself, because he does see her very often, you know, and he's just letting his mind wander with this stuff. It ultimately doesn't mean much. And again, only further serves to show that she is less than deep when it comes to her interest in Chris.
Yeah. Okay.
Boys, the ladder's up.
The ladder is up. Wait. There's something almost very San Francisco-like about all the hills
Yeah.
here. Although this is clearly like East Coast, right? More East Coast.
No. Well, I don't know. You think?
I think so.
I feel more west. Like this could be Washington.
Just focus with that.
Okay, I wouldn't have thought
Not
that. But
Washington, D.C.
I wouldn't have thought that, but
Hey, Roxanne, what's a light year?
you see, this is the scene where she's going to quote one of the lines from the first letter.
Okay.
It's
What is it?
It's actually 2 pairs.
and it's kind of like almost like amusing, almost like you hear from the last letter. So
What keeps them together?
Mutual attraction.
It's fairly romantic.
do you think they're actually... Here we go. Strange attractors in my window of possible movement.
Passionate kisses.
Passionate kisses. I hope you'll read with your lips.
It's good,
Yeah, it
but
definitely is.
it doesn't mean anything as far as Chris to her.
Okay. I don't think we're on the same page, but...
Story of my life, buddy.
Okay, well... Do you think they're on a set right now, or they're actually at that location? There's something
I don't know.
false about what I'm looking at, I think.
There's something I don't get.
I don't know.
Here's a guy who dodges me for days. So I figure, okay, he's not interested. But CD tells me he wants to write me a letter, and I figure it's going to be about why he won't talk to me.
Something very longing in his eyes in that moment. In Steve Martin's face.
Well, of course, because
Yeah.
she's talking about him.
Yeah.
And sexual.
Hey, wait a minute. Why is he writing? He only lives a block and a half away.
But
See? She doesn't care. She's like, yeah, whatever. Dixie says, why is he writing? He only lives a block and a half away.
Right.
And you see Roxanne go, yeah. Fuck it. He's hot. You know, she doesn't care.
Well, I mean, yeah, she was kind of against. She was kind of mystified by the notion from the get-go.
Yeah,
it's like, isn't that something you get at the end of the relationship? Yeah,
you know. Right.
She wants to see me tonight. I can't see her tonight. I'll have a heart attack.
I'm dying already. It's only 3 o'clock. Hey, just relax, man. Relax, you're right.
I'm dying already. It's only 3 o'clock.
If I talk to her, I'll die. Okay.
I am so glad that they chose to make this be Chris's weak point. They could have made it where he couldn't find the words. They could have done that. It would have been very simple to do that. And they would have needed to do that to make CD the one that could rescue him with the words. But to have Chris be afraid, genuine, like sickeningly afraid to communicate with a beautiful woman, I think that was a great touch, because you don't expect that. You don't expect that from the handsome, gorgeous-looking guy. You expect that from the average-looking guy talking to the exceptionally beautiful person. And they flip it. CD does not feel that because CD doesn't feel that because he never feels like he's in the game. You know, so he's able to talk to anyone without thinking about it. Whereas Chris, you know, he's not stupid. He may be a little, I don't want to say uneducated, but less intellectual. But he's not unaware. He knows how he looks. He knows that people look at him and they want to be with him. You know, he's not ignorant to that. But he chokes because he's still, while he understands that he's a good-looking guy, he still looks at Roxanne and goes, "Oh my God, she is beautiful. What do I say to such a beautiful person?" And it makes him nervous, as it would make most human beings nervous. So I enjoy that was his weakness, his fallacy. It's just that he froze when it came to talking to women, and it's a weakness that doesn't make him a bad person. It's not like he's a cheater or a guy with a wandering pee-pee. He's just a guy that's afraid to talk to really good-looking women. A philanderer. So, and it's relatable, you know. We've all felt that. And the fact that he's, like you had said, you know, there's a naivete to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't have the slightest idea what he's
saying
about.
Yeah, you are a lioness.
Yes, he doesn't know what he's saying. Yeah. I reach out my hand out reaching.
Yeah. But not a defenseless one. Not a rabbit. I think a lot of credit needs to go to Rick Rossovich.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
because he is able to deliver this dialogue in a way that makes it funny, because he has to act badly. It's like he's a good actor trying to act like he's a bad one.
Yes,
which
exactly.
is really hard
to do.
Which is really, really hard. Yeah, but he does a fantastic job.
And I believe it. You know, I see this character and I believe it. Proceed to main.
Absolutely, yeah. I love, even with the antiquated technology, it still works because, well, this was in the late 80s, you know, where this is that classic scene of Cyrano being outside the window. And they do it with a CB radio.
Right.
But it still works today, even though CB radios aren't much of a thing anymore. Still makes sense.
Well, yeah, you still have to find some way to covertly communicate, and this does it. You could always do the billboard idea from Short Circuit 2.
So now you're the weatherman?
The billboard idea?
Remember?
Oh, yeah. Another Cyrano moment.
Exactly.
Like, how many times is that classic moment? Yeah, that classic scene that's been used in things like, it was in the Brady Bunch, it was in Short Circuit 2, like you just said. I think I saw it in Dumb and Dumberer.
Well, it's been in a ton of things. Yeah. It's a cliche.
Well, I think it's a credit to just how well it works.
Yeah.
You know, how well it's lasted.
Yeah, it's a moment that can be
The night is warm.
put into different stories of different genres, different settings. It's kind of a universal cliche moment. You know, you can put it in anything.
Yeah, no, she just said, like, say something romantic. Like,
You know-
what is she really saying when she says that?
You know, man, I'm thinking Roxanne's kind of a slut. And, you know, I think she's thinking with her girl parts.
I love his responses. Why do birds appear every time you are near?
She's like, isn't that a song? Yeah, I think they turned it into one. You know, Roxanne
That's
is
as deep as he gets poetically.
Roxanne is not asking anything about him personally. She is looking for the dream, and he's a dreamy looking guy. And if he came in differently, maybe she would be talking differently to him, or she would, you know, hope for something different. But he has, well, CD has set the stage of this romanticism, and now she's completely caught in the fantasy. And he could, as we see later, just talk poetically for just the right amount of time, and she will just ease him up to that bedroom. She's unconsciously, I think, looking for a reason to open those legs. And those words, hey, I'm sorry, but it's true. Those words give her the justification so that in her mind, she's not being a slut. But the fact is, she is. She doesn't know him. He says a couple flowery things, and she's got him up in the bed. You know, she's not a slut, but it's a slutty thing that she's doing. There's no getting around it.
She wants to get her rocks off.
No, that's what he wants to do. She wants to hope that there's more to him and that she'll get to know
I don't
him.
think she's wanting that right now.
No, not right now. I'm saying big picture, that's what she would like to do.
Is she thinking about the big picture right now, though?
Oh, I think she's sold on the dream that maybe years, later they'll get married, kids, who knows, whatever. But right now, yeah.
Is that a condition of being a woman? That she's thinking something like that?
Not necessarily. I just think it's part of that romantic dream that's being presented through those flowery, poetic words. But I think that, she's also horny. She's horny by looking at him. And he's giving her the reasons to say, okay, let's do it, And then she's trying to believe, oh, it could be this, it could be that, whatever. She's... It's slutty. There's no getting around it. Especially after this shit that happens. Yeah, she's totally slutty. And she falls for the bullshit. Had it been someone else, someone that looked like me, I'm not getting laid that night. I don't care what shit CD says under that window. It's because of how he looks.
Right.
That's the slut element. And of course Chris is too. I mean, Jesus. I mean, he's thinking with his dick right now. That's all he's doing. He's not thinking how cool it is that she's an astronomer and all that stuff. He's looking at her.
Yeah, he even uses astrology with astronomy.
Right. The scene is very well done.
Yeah, I mean, it's this is one of those instances where I keep saying like, oh, this is my favorite scene, and then there comes another one that's really good. I'm like, there's just a lot of great scenes in this movie.
Yeah, this movie just pulls it all together. It really does.
They're all used up. They're hard to say. They've all been wasted. Give it to me.
I had asked you like, if you considered yourself in this moment to be a Chris person or a Charlie person. You said that. I think you gave me a response that you were like somewhere in between.
I think I'm good with words on the written page, and I think under the cover of trees and darkness, I could talk well because I'm not. It's even though you're talking in real time, with someone, as opposed to a written, a letter. When you remove the fact that you're being aware of where your hands are and how you're looking, you can just lose yourself in what you're saying. And
it's the heat of the moment.
Sure. And I think I'm more like CD in this case. Chris didn't have to say anything. That's the slut part of this. Chris could have shown up on that porch with her.
Right.
And he could have just said,
Well, he, as you remember, he didn't say anything in the beginning of the movie that he's walking past that woman.
Yeah.
He didn't have to say anything.
He didn't
She
have to say
wanted
anything.
him. She wanted
Of
to.
course.
Yeah.
And he could have had that girl bagged by the end of the street walking if he had just said the right things, which in his case is less, you know.
Less is more in his case.
In his case. Yeah.
It was eloquent.
You know, I mean, we want to believe that women are different, but they're not. They see someone attractive, they want to do dirty things with them. That's just, that's life. And, you know, Chris could have walked across paths with that girl at the beginning and walked down to the end of the street with her and said, hey, I think you and me should go back to your place. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to call you, because I'm not. We're going to do this. It's going to be great. We're going to be safe about it. We're going to be this, and fuck it. Let's do it. Let's have fun. She'd be like, yeah, let's do it. That girl was a slut. You could tell anyway. But,
as we're watching this scene when he's wooing her, you know, with
Right.
this very romantic dialogue, it's pretty good stuff.
oh, it's great.
I'm suspended weightless over you like the blue man in the Chagall.
I mean,
it's-
he was saying that when birds flap their wings, he hears her name in the air.
yeah.
And you're like, come on, you know?
Okay. Do you think it's a leap, though, that Charlie is at this stage already? I mean, how long has he known her?
I don't think Charlie actively thinks these things. I think
At this point?
No.
Oh, he does.
No.
definitely.
I think he is very much into her,
Right.
but he's letting his fantasy go wild talking like that. I do not think that when CD walks through the street, he hears the birds flap and he doesn't. It's the fantasy of what his heart wants to say. But I don't think he feels that or thinks it in reality. Sure, when he's sitting here waxing about it, yeah. But no one actually does that. That's insane. But he's creating his own fantasy right now, where he's the dashing romantic hero, and that she's someone who sees him inside for what he is, and all of that. It's a fantasy of his own, and he's able to pull off this fantasy because she thinks she's looking at Chris. Everyone's bullshitting each other. It's really sad, but you know, the only reason that we enjoy this is because they pull it together in the end, and that you do believe that putting this night, because I think this night is a wash. This night makes all three of them pretty screwed up. You know, he's taking advantage of her. CD. It's not his intention, but he is. He's taking advantage of the romantic side of her to get Chris in that bed with her. So he's playing her. Chris is allowing her to be played. She wants to be played, and she's falling for it because she wants to, fully understanding that clearly Chris is not this guy. God, if she thinks about it for more than 2 seconds, she knows that this is not Chris. That even if she believes that's physically Chris down there talking to her, she, I'll bet, believes that this is all bullshit. Because Chris is that guy that was on the patio. And she fucking knows it. But she doesn't want to think about that because she wants Chris's dick. And that's just all there is to it. I'm sorry. Hey, look, it's reality. But the reason why, again, man, you gotta, this night's a wash, you know? But we believe and enjoy the ending because we do accept that CD and Roxanne have genuinely formed a relationship, a friendship, and have gotten to know each other. And while he looks at her and thinks, oh, she's beautiful, that's not in question. With her, we believe that she has taken who she's known in person, CD, taken the words that she thought were Chris's, put them onto CD, and realized there's not only a great funny man here, but a beautiful man, a romantic man, and all that. And it allows her to see him physically differently. Even CD, on some level, as time goes on, takes Roxanne from the fantasy to more reality. You know, not so much. He's still more infatuated than really in love. Even she is too at the end. I mean, I don't think anyone is really going to say they're in love, but they're definitely very much in like and willing to explore that. So I don't think we should even use the word love because they don't know each other well enough to say they're in love. But at the end, they are both equally and honestly in like with each other. And who knows where that's going to go? Maybe it could become a blossoming, loving romance. It could be. I hope it would be. But I believe that it could be because they do know each other. Whereas at this point, no one knows anything about anyone. It's all bullshit. You know, that's why I'm saying this night is a wash. It's a total wash. You know, and he'll always know it. He'll always think it.
Do you think that's going to doom their relationship because their relationship started out on a lie?
If they choose to talk about it, probably. But I don't think he's going to put himself in any position where he's going to jeopardize his relationship with her. And she's not going to want to talk about it because she's going to have to face the fact that she was a dirty slut. And she doesn't want to do it. So they're going to let this night... Don't bring that up. Please don't bring that up. That's what it's going to be. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. You know?
At Roxanne's house?
He'll pass it off on Chris and go, that skanky guy, he ran off with that bartender girl, you know, it's all his fault. And he'll play it off, even though he'll deep down be knowing that, you know.
Well, at least they'll have a great How We Met story.
Which they will maybe not tell.
Not in its entirety.
Not in its entirety.
No. No.
They really know what they're doing.
You know, I was thinking about what it's, you know, what the story is really saying about the differences between, you know, men and women and how they approach attraction. And, you know, men in this movie are really described as being very kind of lustful, but
so are the women.
Yes, but let me get to that.
This is one of my favorite lines.
Oh yeah, it is. When we get there, I'll stop.
Yeah,
so we can hear it. But
here it is.
We're not quite there yet. In a few moments. No. But as we were saying about, as I was saying about men and women, is that
here it is.
Okay.
Real nervous.
Real nervous? Yeah.
I mean, you know, so nervous that couldn't.
CD. Yeah, come on, you know. It's
And we're buying it. We're getting sold on it.
Well, it's Charlie's reaction that sells it. Here it comes.
Couldn't do it third time.
Oh.
Oh Lord. Yeah, that's rough.
Well, men are portrayed as being lustful, right? And so are the women. But you know, the men are never saying like, I need the woman to also be intellectual as well. I just need her to have a hot body. That's all the men are saying. And
well, look
and
at what Roxanne says right here. This is the vice versa of what you're saying. She's leaving and she wants Chris to write to her. But she doesn't say, have Chris tell me more about himself. She doesn't say that at all. She's not remotely interested.
Well, she wants that intellectual of her side of her tickled as well.
Well, sure. But she doesn't say, have him talk like this and tell me more about himself.
Well, no. What I was getting at is that what you're saying is that, but she wants to be wooed with her eyes as well as her heart and her mind, in saying that
tell him to knock me over.
Women are more particular in what they want, you know, and that's something that, you know, because a man will just say, well, are her boobs big enough?
Right.
You know, that's all that could be his only qualifier. It's like, well, she could be as boring as hell, but as long as she has the right breast size, then it's fine.
Right.
Yeah. What about this scene?
Sorry to cut you off there, but I mean, here we are. He's going to interact with Sandy. Boy, man, this scene I thought played much later in the movie.
No. Right after he sleeps with her. Yeah. For the third, not the third time, the second time, but
so I really kind of want to pay attention to see what happens here.
Well, they are able to build. They have a rapport very quickly.
Yeah, and you know, neither one of them is really doing anything wrong. They're just talking. You know.
No, but Sandy wants him.
Oh, well.
And she knows she's doing something she shouldn't do because she says, "You see Roxanne, don't you?" And he says, "Yeah." Only says that I probably shouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she can talk to him, but like right now, they're just innocently doing this thing. Now she's eye fucking him,
being a little flirtatious.
Oh yeah, he's not. He is just sitting there.
Well, because he's not throwing up. He's not nervous.
But he's not doing that because he's involved with Roxanne, so he doesn't see her as a potential. You know, so he's just not thinking that way. and he's able to get over that nervousness because of that. She, on the other hand, I wouldn't go so far as to say she's flirting with him, but she's being flirty with him, you know, just because she's attracted to him. So she's being all bubbly and stuff. But I'm kind of curious as it plays, you know, what happens right as she goes, hey, you see Roxanne, right? Because obviously there's a moment where they're like, oh, wait, are we
going to cross this line?
Is this a thing? Like, what's happening here? You know,
like, are we
right
attracted
now
to each other?
It's safe enough, you know. She's trying. She's trying to be interesting, you know.
Well, did you see that? It didn't work. She tried to be intellectual, and it didn't work. When she said, like, oh, Albuquerque, this is how it's spelled, and he kind of just brushes it off. Like,
because he doesn't know.
Oh, it makes him feel dumb, and I think that she was trying to be something she wasn't in that moment.
Yeah, but then she comes around here as she is, and she's getting personal with him. She's you know what I really want to do? I want to do this, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's so great you've traveled.
And like right now, she's dropped that whole smiling ridiculously. They're just talking.
Yeah. She's not saying, like, say something romantic.
Yeah, I mean,
she's not saying that. She's like, yo, I want to go to San Francisco.
Here it is. When you find two people interesting, they're interesting to each other. Yep, boom. And she's like, oh, shit, yeah. But she's like, okay, hey. She is trying to be like a good friend and realize, oh, fuck. Okay, I'm sorry, you know.
I don't know if she's trying to be a good friend.
No, I think she is. She turns her back. Doesn't take much to turn her back around. But but he just says, hey, it's no big deal. We're just talking, you know. He kind of...
Even though they're doing more than just that.
They are, but I don't think he's thinking of it literally right now. They're just getting to know each other. This is how it should have been with him and Roxanne.
Should have been.
But they wouldn't have had the sort of things to talk about that he and Sandy do, you know? Because they're both thinking with their genitals.
Right.
And even Sandy is too when she starts talking to him, but then as they continue to engage, she's actually enjoying talking to him, you know? And they're both finding that a different experience, regardless of the fact that they're both very attractive people, you know? I think Sandy's better looking than Roxanne, but that's just me.
That all depends on your taste.
Yeah, I know. It's a taste.
Yeah. Speaking of her, though, have we seen her in anything else? The person playing Sandy.
Well, let me look.
Yeah, you do that. Now we're at the montage, by the way. And I know people listening can hear the music in the background, but we can't because we have the volume down. But do you know how it goes? Can you remember?
Give me a little bit, and then we'll come
I
back.
don't remember. That's why I'm asking. I've gone blank, but I've seen this movie so many times.
Dun, 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 dun.
No, that's not this part.
Are you sure?
No.
I think it is.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, okay, it's
classic music, but it's classical music. Dun 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 dun. Okay, but this montage sequence here, where he's writing, Charlie is writing her letters because she has asked CD to ask Chris to write her letters while she's away, doing something academic. It's not really important, but that's what she's doing. And you see him mailing these letters, right?
Yeah.
And it turns out that he's written 20 letters because that's something he's like, about three a day. He's like, that's six times 3 is 18. Well, 20. And so he's written 20 letters in the span of almost a week. But you see him mailing these letters, right? And I know this is kind of getting nitpicky. It's bringing up a technicality, but he's mailing these letters in street mailboxes, post office boxes.
It would take a week for them to get there.
Right. But she says, like, every hour I got something new.
Yeah, I know. Obviously,
and I'm thinking, she mean that literally? Like, she got a new letter every hour? Is the mailman making a stop at her house every hour to give her these letters?
They certainly...
I could justify it if it was like a telegram and, you know, something like that.
Yeah, no,
but it doesn't seem to be that case.
I don't think you're supposed to think about it. You're just supposed to enjoy...
Well, you know, when you watch the movie...
No, you're right. You're right, though. It's obviously not feasible.
What's the point?
The point is that sometimes the answer is so obvious that
Shelley Duvall in this scene points out what the obvious is, that he really likes Roxanne, but she says tell Roxanne that you love her.
Right.
Do you think he loves her? Really? Because at the end, although you said they're in like with each other, which I agree, she does say, "I love you, Charlie."
I know.
I know it's just words, it's semantics, but
no, I don't think he does.
Okay.
I think he wants to, and I think if they continue to see each other, they both very easily could genuinely fall in love with each other. But I don't think right now he actually does. I think just like Roxanne, he is selling himself on the fantasy. You know.
This is the deadest place I've ever seen. Hey, Dixie, have you been serving that tripe quiche again?
Chuck, how come you're not wearing your fur? I thought you were off tonight.
I want to go to this town.
yeah, every time I watch it, I get kind of this urge to move there. Yeah.
What if it's really like this?
Well, you know, like I think it's going to be something akin to like the Groundhog Town. I think it's not Punxsutawney. It's they didn't really shoot it in Punxsutawney. They shot it in Woodstock, a town called Woodstock. But it really looks like that. That town square that they shot in really looks like that. So maybe the town really is like that. Hopefully it still is. This is the late 80s, so who knows what it looks like now. Maybe the whole thing burned down. Who knows?
Yeah, true.
With a fire department like that, probably. Because these are all real locations they're in.
Oh, yeah.
And all the homes, the firehouse, the bar. This is all elements of the town, it looks like.
Now, Roxanne's back after a week of being absolutely...
having her heart melted.
Having her heartstrings melted by these letters.
Yeah.
And, you know, Chris is up there totally willing to...
sleep with her again.
At this point...
Okay, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to bring up to you.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel Sandy and Chris have already gotten together.
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
Based on that one scene?
I think that night, I think they got together.
What are you basing that on?
The way Chris operates, I think.
I don't think Chris, quote unquote, operates in any certain way.
I don't know. I think they were attracted to each other,
well,
and
yeah, sure.
I think they hit it off. And I think I'm not saying this is like the next day. I think that because she's been gone for a week. I think Chris has been seeing Sandy this whole week.
I don't think so.
Okay, I totally disagree with you. Listeners out there, chime in, let us know. I think I think Chris has been seeing Sandy all week. He's fallen in love with Sandy. He's out of love or lust with Roxanne at this point. It has been a week. He has not slept with her. He's been sleeping with Sandy.
No.
Totally. Totally, because he leaves this night.
What are the circumstances with which he leaves this night?
What do you mean? When Chris leaves?
Yes. Oh, you mean he leaves the town this night?
Yeah, he leaves. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what happens at the end of the scene in the house? I don't remember.
Nothing. They leave off right after this moment, actually, where he tells him, like, oh, I wrote X amount of letters. Okay. And that's the end of the scene.
I mean, when we join the scene, they're in the bedroom. You know.
Yeah.
She wants him to do some serious gardening in her yard.
Right. And say all the right things at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, he's up there. I think he wants to also, but he gets stopped by CD because he knows, oh shit, like, what have I been saying to her this whole time? You know, so he can't get into the moment because he's trying to connect with CD right now. So he's like, no, let's just kiss instead. See, like, now she says, now I want the real you. Now she's had her slutty moment, been chased by the fantasy. Now she actually wants to get to know the guy a little bit, you know.
I know you from your letters.
I'm not saying he even has to be super deep. Just a little bit will do, you know. She just wants a little bit of humanity in there.
Wouldn't even matter if you were ugly.
No.
I love the way. I hate to just quote the movie, but the lines that Rick Rossovich says when she says, like, you know, I want to learn, I want to know what you know. He's like, well, I can play the guitar a little. He's like, I want to travel with you. Oh, I hate pasta. It doesn't make any sense. It's good comeback.
Now, in her defense here, she actually just said, we can just talk. Let's just talk.
But he's intimidated.
Yeah, and he took off.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he knows that she's looking to connect intellectually right now.
See, this is where he meets up with Sandy right here. It's done.
No, I get it. It's just I don't think he was boning Sandy.
I totally think he was. You think they have not slept together at all at this point? They've
No.
just been hanging out? Or they just had that one interaction at the bar?
I think, wait.
No effing way, man. They have boned at least 3 times. I'm thinking they've boned multiple times throughout the whole week.
God, I love watching her
day.
mouth in this. It's just like got a
I know, it's very
mind of its own. It's just moving.
I know,
all the time.
it stands out. I know. Something about the way
How
she's
is she not?
articulating it.
She did 4 things, none of which this is one of them.
Oh, you didn't tell me what she had done?
Yeah, the other 3 are like nothing.
Okay.
And like she's a standout. I don't know why she didn't do more.
Would you call it like a girl next door quality?
Oh, yeah, who's like wrapped in a model. I think she's beautiful. Dude, no. I don't want to think that that's what was going on.
Okay, man.
And I don't see where you're getting the implication.
You think all they've been doing together is talking, though?
We don't know if they even saw each other again after he goes to the bar that night. We don't even know where in that week that bar night was.
Okay, in that scene we just watched where he runs up to her and she says, "Oh, so are you coming?" They've obviously planned something together. It's like, yeah, I'm coming. They've talked multiple times, and when they've talked, they've boned. There is something that's been going on. It's foolish to think that they haven't. I know it'd be nice to think that, oh, he's abstaining. No, he is not. No way in hell. No way, sir.
I have
No,
okay.
sorry, Bob.
Look, you gotta understand. I'm being very contrary to this because I've lived my life thinking that
People are virtuous? Is that what
No,
you're trying to say?
God, no. But that they had that night in the bar where they just talked and maybe talked all night, and then we don't even know when that night was.
That night it was right after he had bagged Roxanne.
The same night? No, it wasn't.
The following night. It was just before Roxanne left on her week.
Or the night
Macadamia.
that she left.
Yeah, it was not that long after.
Okay, fine. I was always of the thought that yes, they talked probably all night, and mind you, it's only a week, so she's like, I just want you to know, I'm doing it. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna go do this, and then he knows that. So when he leaves Roxanne's that night, he goes running up, hoping to catch her. And although she does say, like you said, you coming or not, I mean that does kind of imply that we missed something. But I'm not saying that they boned. I don't want to believe it because then Chris is a complete dickhead.
This is why, I've felt this way about Chris. Is why I've had a hard time defending his actions, like if he's really good or not. If he's just being selfish a lot of the time to get his way, doing things to get his way, and just pursuing his own desires and not taking into account. I mean, it's great that Chris is connected with someone and fallen in love. Same for Sandy,
sure.
but. He's been very dishonest along the way.
Well, I mean, he's obviously the dishonesty is what got him laid in the first place. You are genuinely of the belief that
It has a...
maybe the day before or even just a few days prior, he's boned Sandy, and then he was gonna nail Roxanne again this night.
Yep.
If she hadn't got all intellectual.
I don't think he was doing it out of like lust for her. I think he was doing it because that's the only way they've connected. He's like, well, I have to sleep with her because I can't talk.
Right.
So if I'm having sex with her, then at least I won't have to say anything.
Right.
So I'm not saying he wouldn't have enjoyed it. I'm just saying that that's all he knew how to do with Roxanne. Sandy he could have a conversation with, but Roxanne, no.
Yeah, shoot, man. I mean, I don't. There's no evidence specifically to say that he slept with Sandy, but I don't want to believe he did. I mean, at bare minimum, even though it still makes him an asshole, he was just talking to her and setting all this up. But, and yes, the way he kind of embraces her in that last shot before they drive off, it's very they're both very comfortable. Like that's not the first time.
It's like he's held her like that before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck. God damn it, Jeff.
I've changed your mind.
This is not the first time I've had a movie not ruined but undone by realizing that a certain character that you think is, oh, they're not that bad, and then you realize, oh shit, he's a dick, and it changes everything. I've already pointed out that Roxanne's a slut. Now Chris is a slut and a douchebag, and Charlie is being a douchebag. Not maliciously, but he is being a douchebag in the sense that he manipulated a situation. It didn't benefit him in any way, but he still manipulated a situation.
Well, yeah, he's almost given a pass, though, 'cause as he says right here, he's like, I was trying to tell you how I felt about you.
He's trying to get it out, but he's in the wrong, and she's not letting him get away with it either. Mm-hmm. She kind of does in the end, if you think about it. But,
Get off the porch! Go on, get off the porch! Go on!
I mean, at the end of the day, she does give him a pass on it.
Well, is we as a culture, are we willing to give a person a pass for that kind of thing because it came from the heart, even though they were being deceptive at first?
It depends on the deceit. In this case, the deceit was.
Most people consider that a serious
level
of deceit.
It was a serious level of deceit.
Okay.
He got her to sleep with someone,
mm-hmm.
which, I mean, this is where the slutty part comes in. She was going to do it anyway. She just needed a reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is, CD calls her out on that. Mm-hmm. In this scene. That's what this whole scene is about, partly about anyway. He says, it's like, you know why you didn't investigate it? Because you wanted it all. You wanted, all the words and wrapped up in a cute little nose and a cute little ass.
Yeah, and he's right.
He's absolutely right.
He's 100% right. Otherwise, she'd have gone for CD in the beginning.
He's like, it was totally obvious Chris couldn't talk like that. You just ignored it.
That's what I said.
I know. I'm just bringing out that's what that scene was about. I know. Now, what, I've seen this movie a lot of times, and so have you, and I love this scene. This music in this scene is awesome, by the way. I wish I had this part of the score. It's what I like to call epiphany music.
Yeah.
There's some really great tracks of epiphany music in the history of cinema. This one is really good, along with the Hunt for Red October. Do you remember that scene in the Hunt for Red October where Alec Baldwin has that epiphany about Marco Ramius, like what his real mission is?
How do you want to get a crew to get off?
Not that scene. No, in the beginning when he's in the boardroom meeting with Jeffrey Pelt, he's
you son of a bitch.
That because they're doing this slow pushing on him. He's like having this epiphany.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it, and it's the same thing here. It's not the same type of music, but it's epiphany music. It's really great, great stuff. But this scene here, I've thought about what it's really supposed to signify.
This, the 2001 music?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
The Blue Danube.
Blue Danube?
Blue Danube. Danube.
You noob.
Because we've had this bumbling fire department, right?
Yeah.
And in the end, their climax is shared with Charlie's and his resolution, where they become real goddamn firefighters. So they finally stop being bumbling, and all their training pays off, and they save the town.
Yeah.
What's that all about? Like, is there some kind of connection? They brave the fire, they put it out, and this happens right as the whole charade falls apart with Roxanne and Chris and CD.
I would make the argument that dramatically, these guys, like they say, we're real goddamn firefighters. Even though they don't want to admit it, they knew prior to this night that they were just pretenders. It was all just a show. They wore the suits and all that, but they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Just like with CD, he was a pretender. He was faking something. He wasn't being
genuine.
Yeah, there was not a genuine thing, and he had a genuine moment with Roxanne earlier in the night when she called him out, and that was a very real moment that they had. That was like a relationship type moment. In a way, she was breaking up with him, even though they were never together. And so he had to face some reality. They faced reality today, and they stood up to it, and they owned up, and they said, yes, they've been training, just like, in a way, CD has been training throughout this movie to build up the balls to actually be himself with Roxanne. These guys have been training all this time to show that they actually can be real goddamn firefighters. So it's a climax for everyone. Chris has his training that while he may have depth, he's not an intellectual. So stop trying to act like he is and just be who he is. That's what people want. That's what he's learning. So he's genuine with Sandy. Sandy is also genuine. And then Roxanne, well, I'd say her only thing that she learns is that maybe you shouldn't open your legs for someone the first night you talk to him. But what she also learns is that she has been a victim of her eyes and she's been training this whole time to be in love or in like with CD. She just couldn't see past his nose. She pretty much says that at the end. I believe those are her actual words. I couldn't see past your nose. Not to say that she looked at him badly for it. She just didn't see him romantically because of the nose. And she's been training her mind for the whole time of this movie to see past that nose. So everyone comes to a head this night in what they've been learning.
Yeah. It's a good way to look at it. Thank you for clearing that up.
Well, all right.
But I also like,
and that's what he's doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's realizing that he also screwed up. He's not the innocent here. He did bad also, but because of his own weaknesses and fears. And thank God for him, she was able to see past his nose. And
this clever reversal where she's looking
at the
up
bottom.
at him.
Yeah.
Where he's on the rooftop like he was in the beginning with the boy, where it's kind of like a vulnerable place for him.
Yeah.
In a way. Interesting.
See, look, I went inside and I thought what it was about Chris that attracted me.
It was the way he looked at first.
But then she's like, well, it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But then, she's right. She did want to see more, which is why when she came back, she's like, talk to me, man.
Intelligent. Feminine. But it wasn't him doing that to me.
Do you think their relationship will be sustained?
All these other men, Charlie, they've got
What do you think?
Yeah.
Because in the original text, as I know it, they did not end up together. It was a sad ending.
This, yes, I believe. And I believe it because of Daryl Hannah in this movie. I believe that she is a person who can love CD. If it was a different actress saying the exact same lines, I might not believe it.
Okay. Like,
It's her. There's something about the way she looks at him.
put another actress in there, so I
Pick one. I don't know.
Nicole Kidman. What if it was her?
Fuck, I don't know. Maybe. I almost believe like she could pull that off.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Now I can't think of anyone.
Okay.
If you put...
What if it was Olivia Wilde?
God, do you know who she's with in real life?
I don't know, but I know you find her.
She's very attractive.
Yeah, but do you think she could pull off the intellectual thing as well, or is?
I don't know. There's a couple different factors to it.
Okay.
Nah, no. Olivia Wilde, not so much.
Okay.
I think she could get closer. I think that was another example of like maybe that would have been, she could pull it off, but barely. The Sandy actress, no.
Okay.
I don't see it.
Okay.
I wouldn't believe it. It's nothing against the actress, like her acting ability.
No, not at
or
all.
whatnot.
No.
Think of it like Deep Space Nine, right? Mm-hmm. You cast Terry Farrell as Jadzia, and it took her, about half a season, but she eventually figured out how to play old, wise. She's been around a long time. Then when she leaves, you get another person playing this, a variation of the same character, Nicole DeBoer, and she can't do it. She tried, but she could not convey wisdom, age. She couldn't. And it's the actress. It has nothing to do with her acting ability.
Well,
it's her face. She couldn't do it.
No, I get it. There's actors that are more appropriate for certain parts.
Yeah,
It just depends on
this one worked.
The aura that they have in a way.
Mm-hmm. So no. I don't think there's many people that could have pulled it off, but I think she was a good choice for it. And I do believe it, Long Way Around the Mountain. I do believe that she and CD will work. Especially if she stays in this town, which she might not. Her career seems to take her places.
It certainly seems to be a priority.
Yeah, but I believe it's possible. They're both.
It's a very optimistic outlook.
Well, I'm a romantic at heart.
Aw.
She was still a slut, though.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that they can choose to look past that because he's the one that helped her be a slut that night. So, there's only so much he can do. We don't know how that night would have played out had it not been for CD being in Chris's ear.
Right.
Roxanne may have just been like, oh my God, but because of those words, yeah. But again, it was the face that went with those words. So anyway, credits are rolling. Do you have any final thoughts on this?
Well, Roxanne definitely has stood the test of time. I think you'll agree.
Oh yeah,
definitely. I think it updated the original story very, very well. Most of my knowledge of the story comes from this movie. So
yeah.
I think it was Steve Martin at his best. It's one that I go back to and simply just listen to a lot. It's really, really very tightly written. And I think when you look at it really closely, I think you can dissect it a little bit more like we just did and find things that maybe
you're not supposed to think about.
Maybe you're not supposed to think about. You're supposed to just look like, oh, it's a happy ending. Oh, they ended up together. It's a happy ending. But I think Steve Martin was the right person to bring it to the modern audience. Did a great job, and with his stylings, it just gives the movie a feel. There's so many things that Steve Martin does. What?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say?
Well, I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. God, Roxanne really is a slut.
Okay. What have you got now?
I mean, at the end of this movie, she and CD go into the house.
She sleeps with him?
She sleeps with him. Come on, right?
You weren't willing to buy that Chris was sleeping with Sandy the whole week.
Hold on, we're not talking about that.
But then now you're saying, oh, he slept. They got together first night.
They go in there romantically. Do they not?
Yes.
They sleep together. She slept with Chris literally a week before that. Damn. I hope he gets himself checked because she's dirty.
And then you're saying that Chris is dirty though, but he's clearly not. I don't think he is.
You and I are in
he
debate.
Wasn't a man whore, not really.
Well, you and I are in debate on whether or not he did or did not sleep with
I thought I was pretty convincing.
You've made me question what sort of interaction he's had with Sandy. I don't want to believe that he has slept with her. Okay. But I do think, clearly to have gotten to the point where he did with Sandy where he could just walk up and she's like, you coming? Obviously he's been inappropriate, he's not in a relationship with Roxanne, but he's clearly courting her, or at least through CD, he's courting her. So by that reason, I don't think he would have actually slept with her, but he's definitely talked up Sandy more than he should. But yeah, this whole goddamn, they're all bad. They're all bad. Chris is a dick, and a douchebag. CD's a manipulative douchebag, and gets a free pass at the end of it. Roxanne's a slut. Sandy's a slut. They're all despicable people. They're all bad. The only one who's true to himself is that other firefighter guy who hits on people. He's blatantly obvious about what he's about. He's at least honest. Everyone else is full of shit.
He's straightforward about what he wants.
Yep.
That's a good point. Well, I think I pretty much had wrapped up my thoughts. Did you want to wrap up with something else in general, or?
No, I mean, I think I've said the bulk of it, but
Okay.
I mean, like you said, it still holds up. It's still a really good movie. Like you said, the writing is tight. That there's a magic to it that just works. The casting was phenomenal on everyone's part, despite their bad character traits. They were all perfectly cast. Yeah. I mean, I still enjoy the movie. I'll never look at it.
Course.
I'll never look at it quite the same way now. Unfortunately, we have dissected it a little too much, but I still very much enjoy it. I think I won't know until I sit down and rewatch it. Now we may have ruined.
Well, maybe in a day or two you'll have forgotten about what we talked about. So,
no, I've had this happen lately with a few different movies that have.
Such as what?
Did you ever see Sliding Doors?
No.
Yeah.
I know what it is about.
Well, I'd have to give you.
Is it the Gwyneth Paltrow character?
It's not her. That's the problem.
One of the male characters, obviously.
Yeah, and I had it pointed out to me that one of them that you think is a good guy is actually a douchebag. And I was like, shit, I can't unsee it now, to the point where it actually affects my enjoyment of the movie.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like, when you are kind of, the movie delivers it in a way where it's supposed to be romantic, but it isn't. And one of the biggest examples of that is in culture, in pop culture anyway, right now, is what's that movie called? I've completely blanked on the name. Hugh Grant, Bill Nighy.
Oh yeah, Love Actually.
Love Actually, the scene with the big...
The cards. I've tore that one apart from day one.
Okay, well, when the movie came out and that scene, people thought, oh, it's so romantic. And then when you start to look at it again, you're like, wait a minute, this guy is being...
He's being an absolute dickhead behind his best friend's back.
It's like there's something really uncool.
Even the girl goes along with it.
What he's doing.
She's a douchebag. He's a douchebag.
You're like, now that I think about it, that's not cool, man.
No, not cool
That's
at
not
all.
sweet at all. That's actually really bad. So when you look at it again through a different lens.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It ruins it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All
right. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Josh. So long.
I'm Justin. Good night.